Hey everybody, it's Felisa. I know that it's been a minute. By now I should have uploaded my Spotlight Sunday for my missing persons profile, and I wanted to do this even though it's getting to be a little late here and I should probably be in bed because I'm an old lady. I wanted to do an update vlog, at least this one, so that I can get back on a regular upload schedule. But this summer has just been crazy. I know that I did a whole I'm back vlog, and it really was my intention to upload more regularly. And yeah, as we can see, that did not work out. So here I am starting yet again, and I'm gonna tell you what has been going on with me and where I am now, and hopefully move forward, child. Who knows? I also am aware that my bracelets make a lot of noise. I am an Alex and Ani fanatic. I try to minimize the movement because sometimes on my playback I'm like, girl, if you don't keep your arms still, like seriously. So I want to make sure that I'm not having a whole lot of noise, but I get very animated. Y'all know that I move a lot, and so that's something. Maybe I'll just move this hand that doesn't have a lot going on it. Anyway, so y'all know that I turned 50 back in May. Woo! Shout out to me. I'm still processing this half century old kind of business, and yeah, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, but it is what it is, and I am what I am, and we just gonna keep on moving, right? So at any rate, I did a lot of traveling back in April, May, June. I think I uploaded a vlog. I did upload a vlog. I walked through Jamaica. That was my last trip. That was amaze balls. I hope to go back. It was a couples resort, so here I am, single girl at a couples resort. Clutch your pearls, child, because it was interesting, but I had a good time. I really did. I was among friends, so it wasn't as awkward as you would anticipate it to be. But a couple of things did happen over the summer. This summer has been one for the books and not necessarily in a good way. Nevertheless, here we are, and so I'll kind of touch base on it, and then maybe do some in-depth vlogs about a couple of the things that happened, and we can go from there. The first thing that happened was before I even left for Jamaica. I want to say back in April, I had an abnormal pap smear. Now, mind you, I take care of my lady bits like obsessively, like I don't play about her, and so this is the first time that I had an abnormal pap, and so I was freaking out. I actually wound up having to leave the country with this knowledge because my OBGYN, like, I asked for my test results. The way that it works here is, and it probably works this way everywhere else, but I work for a specific health system. And so most of my care is within that health system, except for my gynecological care, right? Thank you, Obama, for women's choice. I really appreciate you, boo. So I have maintained the same OBGYN since I started having children, and my oldest son will be 31 in September. So there's that. So I've been at this practice for a very, very long time, and I have no desire to leave. Men, if you don't understand what this means, it's kind of like your barber, right? Like women, we have three main loyalties: nail tech, hair, gyno. Like, we ain't changing that for nobody. Anyway, so I go to my regular gyno, have my annual. I'm thinking all is right with the world. Nothing came back that something was about to fall off, et cetera, et cetera. I had a fibroid ectomy and an ovarian cyst removed. I want to say 2012. So I'm very mindful of that and make sure that all is good and all is well. Well, I called my physician's office, asked them to send over my results, fax them to me. I get them, I'm reading through it. What is this? What's going on with this? So I go in straight panic mode. Little something about me, if you haven't picked up on this, I think a lot. And I overthink. And part of that is because of what I know. And so because I know certain things, especially medically speaking, like I went off the rails. So I scheduled a follow-up appointment with my own physician, who works for the health system that I work for, which is very awkward to sit in a meeting with your physician and you know that she's saying things about you that only your husband or your boyfriend is saying. But anyway, I digress. So I made an appointment with her. It was time for my annual physical anyway. And so I go in her office with my results. And she's like, this is her. She's so sweet. But she's like, let's not panic. Let's just repeat the PAP. And if it still comes back, I want you to go and follow up with Women's Health. But let's not panic. You're fine. So I'm looking at her like, lady, like, I just turned 50. I don't have time for this nonsense. And I really, for everything that I knew and everything that I researched, it was pointing towards cervical cancer. We don't have a history. We, meaning me and my mama, because we're both, only children. I don't have aunts and uncles. Well, it wouldn't matter about the uncles. But I don't have aunts on my mother's side. And I'm third generation only child. I do have cousins and aunts on my dad's side, but I'm more concerned about my mother's gynecological health and that lineage. And so we didn't have a whole lot to go off of, honestly. But from what we knew, there was no cancers, no tumors, nothing like that in the family that would cause me to be concerned, especially this late onset. So I repeated the culture and it still came back, abnormal. So now I'm just making out a will, deciding what child is going to do what and who's going to get what. And, I follow up with Women's Health Services and, all that kind of thing. So thank God for the OBGYN that I went to go say. I won't mention her, but shout out to her because she literally put me in her office and had a conversation with me. She was like, listen, this is not what you think it is. Yes, we need to watch it. Yes, we need to be mindful, but this doesn't automatically translate into a cervical cancer diagnosis. So stop thinking that you're going to leave planet Earth and, just be mindful and go about your life. We'll repeat the study in a year. And I'm thinking, a year, girl, something could be growing on my cervix. Like, what in the world? And she's like, calm down. It's okay. You'll be fine, I'm sure. And I don't want to do anything invasive right now if we don't have to. You've already disturbed your uterus with removing the fibroids and removing the ovarian cysts. The last thing that we want to do is do a culture or a biopsy for something that may not even be present. So let's just wait and see. So I'm like, okay, girl, well, I'm going to listen, but I have to be honest. Every, pain, every, like fullness, every time I'm bloated, I'm like, oh, Jesus, help me. So that, if y'all don't understand what kind of anxiety that induced, I'm a relatively healthy person. The only problem that I have, aside from, my surgical intervention, is that I'm fat, which is caused by too much pot bellies and whoppers and whatnot. And I can stop that anytime. I'm like an addict. Like, I can stop whenever I want to. But, this was really a health scare that was super out of the blue and concerning. And, though I'm making light of it, and I don't want anyone who is viewing this who actually has had an adverse diagnosis, I'm not making light of the issue, but my thoughts were all over the place and just, it was not conducive to well-being. So, I'm thankful to her for kind of, calming me a little bit, which, if you know me, child, that's not easy to do. And helping me to interpret the test results and understanding how, there could be a lot of false positives and then why it's important to wait and why it's important to watch and what symptoms to look for and things of that nature. So it did give me some reassurance that, things were not as ominous as I decided that they were, and that it would be okay to wait another year and see what happens and retest and, see if there were still some abnormalities with the cells. So, I kind of went into the summer with this thought that I wasn't going to be here, because that's where my mind connects, child. Don't ask why. It just does. Then one of the blessings that I got for the summer was that I received a promotion. Yay! With that promotion came an amount of work that I could not have anticipated. Part of that was because I also lost staffing during that transition. So there was a supervisor that reported to me that gave her resignation. She got an opportunity in California. Shout out to you, Monica, and I hope that all is well and that you're all transitioned and things are going well for you. But that meant that my staff that indirectly reported to me now directly reported to me, and it's about 15, 16 of them. Then I also had another staff, a different project of coders that were also reporting to me. Not to mention that I had 2 openings on the existing team. So, and we had more work than we knew what to do with, but we still were expected to perform and meet metrics and all that kind of stuff. So the stress of trying to carry that, not to mention at some point my boss was like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to take over this particular project. So I've been trying to transition and take that over, and that is a full-time job in and of itself. So, my stress level has been through the roof, like through the stratosphere, trying to figure out how to optimize staffing levels and meet our goals. Like there's no adjusting the goals. So that's been an issue. So yes, huge blessing to be promoted, but child, I'm gonna need a mental health day. So of course I was working from, like, I would get to work about 8:30 and not leave work until about 7, and then try and come home and still work on my own personal business because I still have an entrepreneurial spirit. And of course, it's always said that if you can give 8, 10, 12 hours to somebody else's vision, you should be able to give 1 or 2 to your vision. Well, child, I wasn't climbing in the bed until about 12, and then having to get up and do it all over again. Plus, I told y'all that I'm fat, and I'm trying to get up and exercise, and I was doing JJ's keto. Whew! So that left little time for vlogging. Then the last thing, which I shouldn't say it was last thing. So the next thing was I had an issue with one of my children, and I'll probably vlog about that when I'm ready. But needless to say, we've been estranged for the last couple of months, which as a mother doesn't feel good. And, I'm just being very transparent because that's who I am. And I'm thinking that there's somebody out there that probably could relate to that. But, it's been very difficult, and tough love is not easy. And, of course, I'm sure that if you asked him, he would have all kinds of thought processes on the matter. But the reality is that we just don't see eye to eye. And, my final decision has been, I just refuse to allow anyone that I carried in my uterus disrespect me for any reason. Period. So I'll probably do a separate video on that. I'm actually writing an ebook on that. So look for that soon. And then the last thing, which was very difficult, is I had to put my doggy down. And that was July the 30th. And it happened very fast. Like, she was 14, and I'll leave a picture somewhere over here because I got her when she was about 5 weeks. She actually was too young to be separated from her mother, but the conditions in which they were found in an abandoned house. And do y'all know that somebody that found the dogs in an abandoned house tried to sell us the dog? Anyway, so my son's friend had gotten a dog from that litter, and they thought that they were Rottweiler, German Shepherd mix. The dog was just super cute. So when I went to go and look at the dogs, They all had a different coat. They looked like a different, like it didn't look like the same litter at all. I came to understand, and I hope that this is right, but I was told by a vet years ago that it's possible for during heat that a dog can mate, a female dog can mate with two different dogs and essentially have two different fathers for her litters. Child, I don't know. But we got Coco, and she resembled more of a shepherd, but the vet thought that she probably was a Doberman shepherd mix. I don't know, but she had more of the shepherd markings. Anyway, got her when she was 5 weeks old, and so she grew up with my children, and my youngest daughter was particularly attached to her. All the children were attached, but particularly the youngest daughter. Anyway, the youngest daughter is the only one that's really at home now, and I had noticed that Coco her behavior was a little off. Like, she wasn't as active, and she kind of would just come, and I vlog from my office, but this is also where I do a vast majority of my work. I try very hard not to take my work into my bedroom or into the living room. Like, when I'm in here, I'm working, and when I'm out in the rest of the house, like, that's my space. I try not to blend the two so that I can have like a mental escape from it, if that makes sense. But I noticed like that last week first of all, she was coughing a lot. She had that cough a year prior when I took her to the vet, and the vet thought, maybe that was allergies and let's watch it. And the cough kind of was, subsided. She would have it every now and again, but it wasn't consistent. Well, this last go round, it became very consistent, where she would come in my room at night and she would sleep and she would just cough all night. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm still thinking it is allergies. But then she would come and she would stand like in the doorway and she would just whine. Or even if I was just laying in the bed, she would come and she would just whine. And, I would think, oh, do you need to go out? What's going on? And then the weekend before, she was sitting she loved to lay at the front door. My door is pretty much all glass, so she could lay there and she could bother the chipmunks and fancy herself a hunting dog, and so she would bark at anything that went by. And so she laid at the front door, and I noticed that there were like wet spots where she was laying. And I'm like, oh my God, is my dog leaking? Like, what is going on? She wasn't necessarily incontinent, so she wasn't like peeing all over the house, but it seemed like when she was laying down, maybe the pressure on her belly was causing her to express urine, but it didn't look like urine and didn't smell like urine. It was like weird. So I was cleaning her and like wiping her, and like she would just kind of look up at me. And so the night before, my daughter texted me. She was like, Mom, Coco was acting really weird. She's following me all over the house, and like she's just not herself. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna make her a vet appointment. Then she texted me back. She was like, never mind. She's barking at the FedEx man. She's like, I was like, girl, are you sick or not? So like, I don't know. Well, I'll check on her when I get home. So I wound up getting home. It was probably about 5 or 6 that night that I got home, and she wasn't acting herself. Like she was drinking a whole lot, and I was making sure that she went outside, but Coco was Coco was a dog that loved outside. Like she hated to come in the house. Like if I left her outside and she could roll around and chase rabbits and dig birds and all that kind of stuff. Like she was definitely a hunting dog. She loved to hunt. As terrible as that sounds, but she loved to like run after little creatures. And so I noticed that this particular time, like when I would let her out, she would go out and she would use the bathroom, and she would come and stand right by the door. And when she would come in, she was just kind of slow. Like normally she would come in and she was trot in and she'd go to her dish or whatnot and, look for Doritos or food. But at that point, she was just kind of like not interested. So I'm like, yeah, something is wrong. So that was Monday. And so I called the vet. And my vet has like emergency after hour service, and the doctor is usually there or on call until about 9 o'clock. But when I called, the doctor herself had a family emergency. And looking back on it, like, I feel like that was divine intervention, and you'll see why I think that in a minute. So I made an appointment for Tuesday morning. I think it was like 10:40 or something like that. That was as soon as that I could get her in. And so that night she was, just kind of coughing, and she wouldn't lay on her pillow. And so I put like a blanket down, and so she laid on that, and she seemed comfortable. And I took a video of her coughing because I wanted to show the vet the next day in case she didn't do it. I used to have to sedate her. Like, she was bipolar, so she definitely did not like people, and she would snap. And where I am, I'm in Michigan, even if you warn a vet that your dog is aggressive or skittish around people, if they bite, like, our bite laws here are very I don't know, like, not in the favor of the pet owner. Like, you could be sued even if it's at a veterinarian's office. And even though they had been taking care of her for years, like, I never wanted to take the chance, so I always sedated her. And I knew I was gonna have to sedate her for her visit the next day, and so I wanted to capture her coughing on tape in case while she was sedated she wasn't coughing. So because of her behavior, and she was drinking like all this water, it reminded me of my cat, who I'd had for 25 years, and the behavior that she was exhibiting right before we had to put her down. And so I remember texting my mom, and I said, Mom, I really, I think Coco is really sick. I think I'm going to have to put her down. Like, she's really acting like Sandy did before we had to put her down. And so, my mom, typical evangelist, so we're just going to pray that Coco is fine, and we're just gonna believe God. And I'm like, yeah, I do, but I'm preparing myself for the worst. And I sent out the video of her coughing to my children who have been raised with this dog, and I was like, I'm taking her to the vet tomorrow, but I'm not necessarily hopeful. Now, I had always told them, or at least for the last 3 years, I told them that if she got to the point where I needed to make a decision for her, that I would humanely opt to put her down. And so that was kind of my way of letting the kids know, and preparing them in a sense, because of course nothing lives forever, and this was a dog that they had since childhood. I mean, like, literally, my youngest was probably like 4 or maybe 6 when I got her. So I knew that it would be very difficult for them to let her go. So I sent that out the night before. Take her to the vet the next day. Vet kind of comes in, and she's sedated, so she's like really out of it. And so the vet comes in, and I show her the video of her coughing, and she said, well, I have 3 guesses, and the first would be cancer, the other would be heart failure, and then the third, I can't even remember what the third was. It doesn't matter. Maybe I'll remember during the course of this video, or maybe I'll just blocked it out. Anyway, she said, but I really think that it's probably heart failure. So she said, we can manage it. We put them on Lasix. And because I'm a health person, I'm like, is that lifelong? She's like, yeah, but, you just give her a couple of tablets or what have you, and we just manage her like people. Like, oh, okay, fine. So I'm getting optimistic at this point. So they did the lab test for her. We wait. Doctor gave her a shot of Lasix, and because she was sedated, like, I didn't expect for her to perk up right away. Like, I knew that it would take time for her to show any symptoms of improvement with this medication regimen, because she was kind of out of it, and she was sleepy. So about a half an hour goes by, and the doctor comes back in with the results of the lab testing, and her whole demeanor has changed. So she says, this is why we do lab testing. She said she does have, heart failure that I suspected, but she's also anemic. And She's also in kidney failure. The problem is that I would treat the most severe issue, which would be the heart failure, but the Lasix that I give her, the side effects is that it will trash her kidneys. And with her already being in kidney failure, you're going to have to do what's called a poor man's dialysis, and you're going to have to give her subcutaneous fluid underneath her skin pocket every day so that her body can absorb the fluid and make sure that she's not dehydrated and make sure that her kidneys are not further damaged. And she said, you might get 6 months out of her. She's 14. So at that point, I just burst out in tears and I said, I think I probably need to just put her down. And so the vet was like, I think that you're making the right choice for her. I can't suggest that, but given her health concerns, I think that that's probably the best route, especially since we can't guarantee how much more life she'd actually have. And the reason that I decided to put her down at that moment as opposed to bringing her back was because she was already sedated. And so she was already very comfortable. To bring her back to the vet would mean to actually stress her out even more. First of all, to bring her home, have her still be sick and, not doing well at all. And then sedate her again to take her back to the vet so that she didn't stress herself out more, only for her to be, injected for euthanasia. I don't mean to cry, but I felt like that was just too much. And so, now I'm calling the kids, and I knew that my son and daughter were both at work, and even though I hated that they weren't able to say goodbye, I wanted to let them, I was so distraught. And I called my youngest daughter, and she's like, I'm coming. She called in, and she was able to come. And one of the saddest things was when she walked in the room, Coco started wagging her tail and lifting her head, and so she knew. I'm sorry. So I'm glad that she was able to say goodbye. And I know that there are people that are out there like, girl, that was just a dog. But I raised her from a puppy, and every milestone that my kids saw, that dog was there. And just to even come home and there's nobody to greet you, and she would be at the door and she would be so happy to see you. And again, I don't expect for people who are not fur parents to understand. And I wasn't one of those weird I never slept with her. As a matter of fact, the night before I had to put her down, I was so distraught, and I knew I was trying to prepare myself for the eventuality that I was gonna have to put her down, even though I was hopeful. So I got on the floor and laid with her and just cried, and she was looking at my face, and she was like, girl, what you doing down here? Seriously, go back on your couch that you don't let me on. So at any rate, that was just a horrible experience. And even though that it's the best thing for them, there's no easy way to do that. It really isn't. It just took a toll on me mentally. And again, I know that there are some subscribers or some people who are watching who can't relate, and I respect that. But she really was a member of my family, and to have her not be here, I miss her tremendously. And one of the things that was really hurtful to me was, the night that I was up, because I was afraid to go to sleep. She was coughing and she wasn't doing well, and I have a friend that I would text periodically, and he happened to text me that night. It was the night of the debates, and I'll never forget it. And so he was sending me memes and things about the debate, And I said to him at some point, I was like, and I sent him something and I said, I'm up with my dog who is sick, so I have time to bother you. And, he said like a LOL, but like he never said anything. And I think that in that moment, I recognized that not everybody has EI. And even if you say something to certain people, or you express yourself to certain people, the expression of concern may not be there, if you follow what I mean. And I was really, really hurt by that because I considered him a friend. And, I consider him enough of a friend where you would at least pick up on what it is that I'm saying, or be concerned in such a way where I can at least have some type of interaction that helps me process what it is that I'm going through at this particular time, and the concern that I have. And it was none of that. As a matter of fact, and I did call him out on it, and he did apologize, but I haven't heard from him since, which is very telling. Like, sometimes you just need to fall back and you need to just understand people's energy, and you need to match that. I'm all about people identifying who they're going to be in your life. And while it was hurtful, I have to be okay with it and, just kind of move on. And the only reason I'm mentioning it is that, for those of you all who are watching, EI is important. It's imperative. Emotional intelligence, in case you don't know what that is. Sometimes people give context clues into what they may be feeling or what they may be going through. And it's important that if you care about an individual, and if you say that you care about that individual, that you pick up on context clues. And people aren't looking for you to solve things for them. To the contrary, all they're doing is looking for you to be human and to express, consideration for them. And especially if that person is consistently giving that to you and making sure that you're okay and making sure that things are well with you. And when you decide that you're not going to do that, or you're unable to do that, it really is devastating. It is, and I'm not going to lie. But we grow and we go on, and people show themselves to be exactly who they are. It is what it is. Anyway, so that's what's been going on with me this summer. Hopefully the craziness is all in the past, and I can get back to regular uploads. I hope that you will continue to follow me. I really appreciate all of you guys who have subbed to me, especially those that decided that you wanted to sub to me even when I wasn't uploading regularly. Like, y'all were the real MVPs. Like, y'all are amazing. And so I want to give a shout out to that. I did start a Patreon. I'm still deciding what the tier levels will be, so I hope that you guys will support that once that's fully functioning and available. And I'll be coming out with some merch probably closer to the holidays. So I hope that you guys will be willing to invest in that. But beyond that, I really pray that each and every one of you all have a wonderful remainder of your summer, and that your fall is everything that you think that it should be and more. I will talk to y'all later. Love y'all. Bye.